So let's see if it works. Yep, so let me know if it works. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me well in the chat? So during these sessions, I'll try to communicate through the chat. So anyone is welcome to join, but basically this is primarily to my students. So I see that in the chat you responded yes, so that's great. So before we start, the idea is to go from quite basics to a little bit like upper level of knowledge, and the idea will be that we will start by making games, because I think games are one of the easiest ways to start understanding how the programming works. So the first game that we're going to make is based on Space Invaders. So the game is you have a spaceship. It's from old Atari game, and you can shoot rockets, and then there are these aliens coming on you. There are some other few things, and we're gonna make all of this as a console game. So and in order to make this happen, so just a second, maybe did I share correct screen? Yeah. So in order this to happen easily, so it will not take us a long time to develop these kind of small games that could teach us programming, we're going to use emojis. So this is going to be the emoji games. I will show you just in a second how and why this could work. So the idea is that we're going to take these Unicode characters, so the emojis itself. Just a second. Just a second. Okay, what did I do? So I guess okay, so yeah, just a second. I'm a little bit sloppy now, but no worries, we'll get up. So the emojis will be used as a graphics, because we will make these games in console at the very beginning. Hopefully they will copy the idea here. And the emojis have the same width and height for each of them, so at least as far as I know. So they are Unicode characters, first of all, so they are kind of like a font, basically. And on each platform they look a little bit different, but they have the same idea. So, and they have the same width and height, so we can imagine that we can use some emoji for the spaceship, for other elements, and they will be always in the like grid-like pattern, so that's really nice. The way how I imagine this to be looking after this tutorial, and maybe even next one, so we're going to do this in a baby steps, so it's not going to be like that you need to know everything in advance. The one thing before we start, you should install a Python environment. So one way to do this is using PyCharm. So install PyCharm before that. It's if you're a student, you can get the professional version for free. It's a really neat environment to work with, and also if you're following these videos and you're joining in live, so that would be great if you can ask the questions. There are some tools that you can use to make the experience better. So one tool, of course, is second monitor, so that's great. But if you don't have a second monitor where you can watch the video, so there is on top replica for Windows. Then also for the Mac, there is picture-in-picture tool that you can download and install, and you can make picture-in-picture for any application, or in Mac you can make also the video itself as picture-in-picture. So the idea is that you would have the small window of what we're doing in the code on top of your actual code. That would make easier to follow, and so you don't need to press stop every time on video. We also have the this kind of Jamboard whiteboards always following these tutorials. So that one, and for Linux, I think the Firefox have picture-in-picture feature as well. If anyone knows other tools, you can share that as well. And let me share how I envision the game should look like at the end. It's going to look like a little bit different on different platforms. So I'm using the Mac OS, so that looks a little bit different probably. Just a second. So let me order here. So I want to make the game look like this. You can even choose your own, like these icons, there's ways how you can select those emojis for the visuals, but that's totally not the main thing. The programming part and design patterns and all sorts of those things are much more important than how it looks like, but it's nice that you have options to make it look better. So I really hope that everything is running here. If by any means, while I'm talking, something is not working, let me know. So that's the idea. Okay, and I will drop in some of the code along the way in this Jamboard link. So I will share the link as well. So let's move back to the PyCharm environment, or you could use some other environment if you want, but PyCharm is that I prefer. I know there's Visual Studio Code or some tools like that. So let's move in here. I hope you made your own new project. So if not, you can press File, New Project, and then select pure Python project. I think it already installs everything that you need on top of it. So yeah, if I create a new project, it just makes me a new folder here. And then the next thing that I need to do is to add the first Python script. So I add new file, new Python file, and the Python file name. You don't see the pop-up, but still, so that's going to be the space invaders game 1 space invaders game 1, like that. So please make file like that. Also, let's add actually another file with 0 in front, like that. That's going to be absolute basics. So basics like that. So we have two files. So we'll start with basics. So I'll just show a few things regarding the Python, and then we'll start building the game itself. Yeah, so this tutorial today should take about 1 hour. As I say, the idea is to start learning step by step all of the basics using games. So we can work with Python, then we implement the same game in JavaScript, then back in Python, then try to make this a multiplayer game, then try to make something useful with the data analytics. So it should be interesting and also useful for acquiring knowledge how to do the actual programming for the tasks that you might need. So let me ask in the chat, are the Python files ready for work? So if there is any problems there, you can try to communicate what problems do you have. I hope you're ready. So I wait in the chat some response and then move on. Okay, so if it's not yet, I will try to show again how to do this. So when you open PyCharm, let me see if I can do this more easily. Okay, so when you open PyCharm, then on top of it there is a new project. So first you press File, New Project, then you select Pure Python, then you select the location of your Python project along with the PyCharm. It usually installs some kind of Python version. There are other ways how to install it, but it's fine to use this one. So, and then you create a new project, then you get a folder here, and then on that folder you can press File with the left click, File, New Python file, and that's about it. Then you get these files. So I created two files. First one is just for the basics that we'll cover, and the next one is actually for the game that we're going to implement. So how about now? So let me check, what do you have here? Okay, great, we're ready to work. That's good news. So, okay, let's see. So regarding the basics, so first of all, the Python itself by default is based more on the console. So first of all, you can write anything out in the console using the print command, and here with these kind of quotes, you can write strings. So the strings are text values. So usually people what do, that they start with hello world, right? And for the Python language, you don't need to add anything else at the end of any line. So it's just something like this. But so to decode this line, so in the comments that I write the comments in green, so you don't need to write them. It's just to explain things. So here, what it actually means is first the purple things that you see, they are functions. So functions, then the brackets means I want to use this function, so that means using the function. So let's add, so the functions are these purple. You might have different colors, but the idea is the same. So, and then the brackets means use the function. So this function is built in the Python, the print function, and then inside those brackets you can add multiple variables. So there are some kind of information that you want to pass it. So ABC, or it could be also like that, just giving directly the value. You can give directly some numerical value, some string, or anything else. So that inner part is the parameter argument that you pass the function. So those parts are just what it is. And to run it, so you press again, so I will show you how to run it actually. Again, this time I don't have myself two monitors, that's why it's not super easy. So here, if you press the left click on the top part of this open file, you have options to run and debug. So the debug is better option. You will see, like briefly, I will show you also how to do the debugging, but you can also do the running here. So if I run it, it outputs here in the console hello world. If I press debug, it also does the same thing, but just with a little bit different process. So you should do that, and please then type in the chat that you succeeded. And also in Python, you can use different kind of like these quotes. So if you use these quotes, it also works. It's no problem. You can use whatever quotes you want. At least as far as I know, there's no advantage for each of them. So is the hello world working? If something is not working, you can try to like make even maybe screenshot or write what is not working. I can try to help you show that. That's why the live sessions are a little bit better than just watching afterwards the video. Okay, great. So this one is working. By the way, if any questions so far, then let me know as well. So this one is working. That's great. So then let's look at the variables and data types that we have. So normally you would try to avoid variable names like ABC or dot data or anything like list or something like that that doesn't mean anything. So we can try to use some variable names that have meaning. So for example, name. So the name could be then some John, like that. So that would be the name. Or maybe we could add also a surname. So Smith. So we have like strings here. So these are the strings. So that's one way how to write these things. Then we could, so these types, data types are strings. So strings. These are texts, right? Then we also have the integers. So for example, age. So this one 22, for example. This is integer, int type. So again, the green parts that I'm writing, those are not mandatory. They are just comments to help you understand what I'm writing. So the age, but I suggest that other things you write, so you have the way how to measure things, if it works for you. So then what we else, height. So this could be height in centimeters, right? So this could be then a floating point or a decimal number, float type. So we can have this one. Then we could add also another thing is employed. So does the person have the work? So this could be then true or false. So this is a bool type. And you see how I write the variable names. If I have two words that describe the variable, I use this kind of syntax with the underscore here and the name separated like that. So this is one way of writing down the variables that is in a clear way. So there are some other ways as well, like camel cases and all sorts of other things, but this just keeps everything clear. So we have some of these types. Right, so I will also wait for you to catch up and time to time ask if you catch up with what we are doing. Again, this is not going to be super long. We'll split these tasks in multiple tutorial sessions every week, at least so far, and I hope that other students will also join. So we have the string, we have the integer, we have the float, we have, I mean, the number, float, right, and the boolean. Then there are some other types as well that are, these are all, so these are basically basic data types. There is one type as well called byte. The way how you could use it is maybe for the, so it's not that important, but basically every single letter in the string, depending on encoding, could be a byte. So these all are the basic data types. So these are basic data types. So these are very important to understand. So here, if I have name 2 and I give name this variable here, then the name 2 variable will be the same as name variable, right? So if I write down print, so you will see just in a moment why that is important. So we could do this in this way. So first we can add name. So this is the name. Then we add the name 2 here. And by the way, this way how this is going to work, it's not always the same way for all of the languages, programming languages. Like in C language, the strings are handled a little bit different. They are also not basic data types. So here, for example, we had this situation, and now let's try to change this John to Peter and try to print it again here. So if you follow these lines of code, so first we print out the name of the first variable, then we print out the name of the second variable that we set from the first variable. So we set name to content as same as name 1 content, and here we change the content, So if we run this, we should see what is expected. So hello world, then we see the name John, name 2 John, name 2 Peter. Right, so this is as expected. So I will copy all this on the Jamboard on the second slide. So if you can catch up later if something is missing, but let me know if this is working for you now. Is this working and understandable? Any questions so far? So the print function is interesting function because it can take any number of parameters. If you make your own functions, then you must define what are your parameters in most cases. So let me go to the Jamboard. So in Jamboard, slide number 2, I will show you how it looks like. So on the slide number 2 we have this example, and we will move step by step forward as soon as I get confirmation that you're ready. So okay, wait a minute. Great. I got confirmation. So you will see in a minute why this example is important. So for example, then the next part will be not basic data types. They are, let's call them complex data types. And there are some complex data types that are provided by default inside the Python. For example, one would be the, let's see, the lists. So lists, or basically some languages, maybe like JavaScript, it's called arrays. So the lists, let's see what kind of list we could have. For example, steps by day. So each day, how many steps this person takes. For example, let's say the Monday, the person takes 6,000 steps. The Tuesday, person takes 8,000, and then the Wednesday, 1,000 steps. So It could also have different things here. It could have, for example, the students in the class. Students in the class. As you see, the variable name is something that is meaningful, and the content can be anything that you need. So the syntax here is important. So for the lists, when we want to define them, we use these kind of square brackets. So these square brackets are different than those round brackets, squared brackets used. And this is just for the initial values. We can change any of these values later as well. So students in the class could be then the John, Peter, Andrew, and so on. So, and it could be more, of course. It's not limited by any number of Jacob or whatever, any number of names. So there is no, so we can add Eve, so there would be one girl as well. Anyway, so these would be the way how we define those lists. And you will see in a moment why this is important, why this is a complex data type and the other one is basic data type. Oh, sorry, you see still Jamboard. That's great. Thank you for letting me know. It sometimes does do this. So for again, let's go to the complex data type. So first, steps by day. So this is the list, and the list contains the square brackets, and in the square brackets we have multiple values. It can be any kind of values you want. It even can be different kind of types. So it could be 6,000 integer, then it could be floating point, then it could be string. But in this time, this would be like Monday 6,000 steps, Tuesday 8,000, and Wednesday 1,000. And then students in the class, strings John, Peter, Andrew, I don't know, maybe probably wrote this wrong, Eve, and stuff like that. So yeah, sorry for not showing the correct screen. Hopefully you can catch up a little bit. So that's one. Then let's work a little bit with steps by day. So if we add then the Thursday, so would be, we could use the append function. So if you use PyCharm, when you press dot, it gives you automatically some functions that you can call for this list type. If you press the dot for any other type of variable like this one, it actually don't have actual functions that you can call. But for the complex data types like the lists and others, you have extra functions. So here append, so we can append that on Thursday, this person walked, let's say 3,000 steps. So that's one option. So then if we want to delete some records here, so we added that last record, but we understood that we actually don't need record of Thursday. So we could use the del function. So this one is not called the same way in Python as the other functions. This is a little bit different than other. So you write del, then you have this space, and then you define exactly which element you want to delete. And in this case, now, if you what we had inside this array or the list after this call, we have something like this, and we want to delete the last element. And in Python, there is easy way how to define it, but you can also use just the old method by starting counting element by element. So let me write down what are the indexes. So the first index is 0. In Pascal and some other languages, the first index might be 1, but in Python it's 0. And the C type of languages, usually it's 0. So then it's 1, 2, 3. And if I want to delete this variable, I need to call 3 here. And then after this call, the output is going to be like this, right? Hopefully. There are, of course, some other interesting functions that you can use inside the lists. So there is, for example, index function. So you can find which exact index, like this index tree, contains some value. For example, if I want to find at which day did I walk 8,000 steps, then I can get index day like that, and then I can do something with it. For example, I can modify it. So I could use this index here and modify it to 9,000, for example. And then the result would be something like this, right? So I will drop this in the Jamboard as well and wait for you to catch up because I accidentally showed the wrong screen. Yeah, so let me know in the chat if you are ready to move on. Ready to move on. Okay, cool. So I see the response, right? So this is what we can do with the lists. But now let's look at this part here more carefully. So remember before when we overridden the name to with the Peter, even though it was set before name, it changed. But now let's see what happens here. So if we have again this kind of steps by day, and let's define something else actually. So because these ones are used and maybe they are a little bit confusing now. So let's see. It could be the houses numbers. So house numbers, or yeah, so just imagine some street and there are some house numbers, and then for example one house has been demolished and it's not existing anymore, so that's why there is no such number. So we could imagine there could be 1, then 2, then 4, then 5, and the 3 is missing and stuff like that. So numbers of houses, so something like that. And then we have some other street, so this will be other street, and the another street will be set using the same numbers, but in this street, for example, we want to delete the first number. For example, delete the number at index 0. Okay, so what we imagine that another street should have the numbers 2, 4, 5, right? And now if I print these two variables, so house numbers, so this is street 1 and street 2 here, what do you think what's going to be the outputs for these two lines? So this is my question in the chat. You can code it, but better would be just looking at the code. So the actual question is for looking at the code without coding it. What do you think? What do you think is gonna be in those two print statements? What will be the output without coding? Just by looking at it. If you don't know what will gonna be output at all, then you can just type in minus. Do not understand is minus. I'm just asking for a guess. So if you write the previous codes, then you'll understand, at least in some part, how this works. You know, like before with simple types copying values, then with the deleting. Okay, I see. So okay, I see. Interesting answer. So you write both options basically, but which option is correct? So and why exactly? If you know, if you don't know, that's also valuable to understand. So option one would be they are different. They will be different, and option two will be they are the same. They will be different or be the same. Which one it is? And if they are, if you think they are different or the same, then it would be great if you write this, like a sentence. Why is that, you think? Or if you don't know, that's also fine. It's just that want to see how much do you get. If you don't know, then you can type in minus. So basically, if not understandable. They both because they are equal. Okay, very interesting approach. So I think from the answer in the chat, I assume that you think that this line makes them equal, and after this line, they still stay equal. But if you think about it, like up here, we also had the same assignment for both of them, right? Name 2 is name 1, right? And then we changed name 2 here, and if we print out now again here name, you will see that they're not going to be the same. So if I run it here up till this part, maybe my mistake was that I didn't print out both of them, and that's why you assume that they are the same. If I run it now, here you see the first of all, you see that a lot of things happening here. So first, the name is John, the name 2 is John, then name is John, and name 2 is Peter. So it's changed, but it did not change the previous variable. So it just copied the contents. So it's interesting that you got it in this way. Usually students got it in another way. So it's copying, normally this operator is copying the contents if this is a basic type. For the basic type, it copies actual value from this value inside this variable. But for complex types, it does not copy the value. It copies something that is called pointer. So copy of pointer. And here there is a copy of value or content. Copy of value. A very different way how this works. So for the pointer, it means that afterwards, if this is a complex type, it works only for complex types. So there is a caveat. If you think that the like after the equal sign or the equal operator, there will always be the equal, it's just only for those that have pointer or those that are complex types. If you have the simple types, it's not the case. You change here the name 2 and name 1 independently. So if I then here would change again to some other, Julia, it would not affect name 2 anymore at all, even though we have this line here. So is it clear about this part? Is it clear about value assignments? If not, please give me some questions so I can clarify, and I will also draw a small picture regarding this this issue. So I will maybe drop more of this in the Jamboard. So let me updated stuff I will drop in the third slide. So this is two very different ways how to set values to the variables. One, so in algebra, if you would think about algebra, just mathematics, then the second way, using pointers, would be logical. But this is not really exactly like in algebra. There are two ways. One is copying values. Another one is copying pointers, and they both look exactly the same. The only difference is understanding what you are doing actually in the code. So let me check. Cool. I hope you got it. So let's then look a little bit on the Jamboard now, and I will try to draw the same thing again using some of those visual tools here on the whiteboard, and then we'll move at the end of the session a little bit something more practical, but we will return next session again to the basic concepts because we did not cover like all of them at all. So let's see. So we have squares, we have, okay, we can use squares. So we can imagine the memory, right? So let's see. So this is going to be our memory. This is going to be our memory. So you know, in the computer you have memory. It's called, one of the memories is called read append memory, RAM, right? And all of these variables that we are right now setting, they are actually inside that memory. So for example, we had the name and name 2, right? So let's see if I can add here. So this is going to be the fill color red. And can I write something inside there? Nope. So this is going to be the name. So this was the first variable name, right? So we stored this in our memory, right? So we defined the value there, and what we do next is we create this other variable called name2, right? So let's see. so the name 2, and it copies the contents of the first variable name. So let's see, I guess I cannot copy them both. So let's see, so this is going to be the name 2. Whoa. And this is going to be a different color because it's a copy of it. It's not actually the same same memory location. So this is a new memory location. So we do this with the basic data type using data copy with operator equals. Okay, so this is the way how we copy that part. So then if you have the complex data types like steps by day, right, what we had there, first of all, so we define it again here. This is a new cell again because this is a new value here. So this is going to be the the steps by day. That was another variable that we had in the code that I just showed you, right? And oh no, host numbers, sorry. Host numbers, right? And this is a list, so this is a complex data type. But then when we called the another street using the operator of using the operator value of the equal sign. So this is a complex data type, complex data type copying pointer or reference, basically pointer or reference to same data using this operator. So now we have some kind of, you can imagine like a ghost variable here that is not actually inside the RAM. So it's not at all inside, like it is actually kind of in RAM, but it's not, because it's not actually the data there, it's just the pointer. So everything that we change in that variable, it will automatically be changed in that previous variable, and vice versa. So they are kind of linked together. And in some languages, you can lose the linkage as well. So for example, now they are linked together, but in some languages, you could accidentally delete this variable, and then you would have only this one, and it's somehow lost the connection here. And maybe in that way, you could also end up with memory leaks, and you close your program and something is still left in the RAM, but your program don't know that anymore because there is no linkage there. And this is only for the complex data types. Remember, basic data types are like integers, like floats, booleans, and all very simple things. As soon as everything gets a little bit more complicated, they are not directly stored in the memory one by one. So hopefully that makes sense. So let me know so in the chat. So does it make sense? Is it clear? How these types of variables are different. If something is not clear or you didn't catch what I showed you before with regards to the Jamboard, so the link to the Jamboard I will also post in the notes, and next week we'll have this beforehand already. Okay, cool. That's great that it's clear. So now I will hope not to forget to switch to back to the PyCharm. Okay, so it's really step by step, very easy steps. So first, like we discussed about the basic data types, So they are like strings, the integers, the floating points, the floating variables, decimal variables, the booleans, and then there is also byte that we are not discussing now. And usually you definitely need to use good variable names that describes what is stored inside those variable names. You should never use like ABCD or like data or anything like that. So that's one. And then there is a complex data types. One complex data type that we are looking today, this is list. And lists can hold anything inside there, like just like in arrays, but unbounded arrays. You can manipulate them, you can append them, you can delete them. This syntax is really not very Pythonic. There's like not the same way as other functions called the delete function. Maybe somebody knows how to call it better, but basically that's the way. And you can also access, you can find values there, you can change values, and here there is this important part just to reiterate. So first, like if this is a basic data type, you can copy the contents using the equal operator, and then you can change them independently, the variables. They are not anyhow linked together. If you are using the complex data types, and the complex data types are many, so this is just the very first complex data type. There are like large number of other complex data types that we will gonna look one by one. So those ones are not the way how like usually programmers think, but more like mathematicians think, that like variable is the same variable here, and if you change them intermittently afterwards, they will gonna change both of them. So for example, let me add another example here. So if I would delete again now the from the house numbers here, the first element, there's the index 0. As you see, the elements are indexed from 0 till the last element. So if I delete again the first element here, it's the same again for both of these variables. So that means that it would become 4 and 5. And if I would print it again here, both of them, they would both have the same value again. So they are kind of, as I said, the reference, like the ghost variable or the linked variable, or using the pointer. So this is just like both variables pointing to the same place in the memory. So this is how it works. Okay, so as I promised, we're gonna go through these basic concepts using some small computer games. So today, not gonna, like it's already been almost an hour. So next week we'll dig in more into game, because now we're just covering very basics. But just to kick off a little bit something interesting visually, so it's not only the talking and like some of the like concepts. So in order to do this, we're going to use something interesting here. So we can draw everything just using the console. Everything that we're going to do will be just console based. So let's see. So let's make a rocket fly. So we can use even first of all the array. So position. So this is going to be position rocket. Rocket. So later the game will look a little bit different, but now let's do it as it is. So the position will be 0, 0. So x and y coordinates, right? Again, the lists can hold anything we want. And this is nice that we have one variable, not two variables. We could use two variables as well, but we can use one variable just because it's the same thing of position of the rocket, right? So then, again, I remind you that the green things, you don't need to write, they're just like the comments for clarification. So here, there will be the main game loop. So this is not going to be the whole game, this is going to just be the insight of how it's going to work. So here, there's going to be specific keyword. So this keyword, again, is a kind of built-in function. So while. So this is a loop, basically. So the loop is something that is repeated many times. So while something is true. So let's add another variable here, is game running. As you see, I use the underscores. The underscores is great way how to make variable names readable. The more readable code, the better. So while is game running, because the job for the interpreter and the compiler and all of these background things that makes these programs work is to optimize them. You like, at least for most part of types of programs, you should not try to optimize your program code just and make it unreadable, only if it's really necessary. So this is one thing, and this is our code. So then we're gonna make the kind of the visual scene where the rocket's gonna fly. And to make that scene, we can do this in multiple ways. So let's make the scene in some of the way that we could do this is not going to be optimal. It's just one way. So scene. Let me think. We could write it as think how to do this a little bit better. Okay. Yep. So as I said, this game is going to be built by emojis. So I guess the easiest way would be do something like this, I guess. So I used this slash here so that I can get my line below here. But in general, like, you could try to write it up here or some other way. So the way what I want to do this now is to add some emojis here. I will drop this cat symbol for you as well. So the symbol is like just a black box. I really hope that on Windows is also a black box, not something crazy different. So I'm dropping that Unicode symbol in the chat, so you can use that symbol. So let's see. So if I add here this thing many times, copy this many times, hopefully it works. Let's see. So this is Unicode symbol. It takes, I think, two bytes. So if I'm not mistaken. So 1, 2, 3. So there's going to be 6 blocks here. Let's make it 9 blocks. You can make it whatever you want. So this is just for debugging purposes. Later we're gonna remove these black blocks at all. So so that it would be we'll remove it because it's not nice. It will just not be nice. So then at the end we want to have a new line here. So the new line is defined using this /n. So, and then if I press enter, PyCharm automatically gives me this additional slash here, so that's nice. So this, I can just copy the same line again. If I press enter, it gives me again. Press enter, it gives me again. New line, like that. So now this could be our playing field, right? So that's one. So we have a scene. So then we can print the scene, print scene. And if I run this code, it will just like fill my console very quickly. So what I want to do next is first to use time sleep. So this is a function that makes the program stop and wait for some while. So we can sleep it for 1 second. So if we see here, there is the sex variable or seconds. So seconds 1, so we're sleeping for 1 second. It could be also 0.5 or whatever. So 1 second sleep. And also if I write this command here, you see the PyCharm automatically imports me the library. So there are many functions that are not defined inside the basic Python without any libraries, but PyCharm automatically imports them as you use them. And if it's not importing that, you can use the Alt-Enter combination, and it will show you the options for importing. So PyCharm have nice feature, Alt plus Enter, that you can press on some of these parts here or here, and you will get the automatic import of the like a library that is necessary. So that we get this part. But it's not enough still. Every second it's going to print all of this stuff here, and this is not what we want. We don't want just console full of these black boxes, right? So the next part is that we need to clear the console. So to clear the console, we can use the OS library, and in OS library there is a system, and inside system we can call some commands. So for the Linux type of systems, we can use command clear, which is clear, but of course Windows have everything very different. So for Windows you should not use clear here, but you should use the CLS here. So you just change the clear to CLS and it should work. So if I'm calling this command here, hopefully if I'm running it, it's going to be working. By the way, there is one additional thing, very important thing. I will make a screenshot of that as well. Just a second. So let me share the full screen. So the important thing here is that if I look at the project properties here, not the project properties, but if I try to run this, so I run this first time, it's giving me something like this, really not good, not what I want. It's just repeating all the time the same pattern, but it's not like clearing the console. So in order to get the console to be cleared, I need to press here on this edit configuration. Here, very exactly at this place. And here in the edit configuration, I have a small checkbox called emulate terminal in output console. And then if I use that one, it will clear the console after every time I call the clear function. So I will drop this also in the Jamboard as an example where exactly you need to change this setting. Otherwise the visual output in the small console below will not be correct, because it will just write the same line many times and not clear the previous lines. And usually like in terminals it's possible, but in this console it's a little bit different. So let me quickly add this to the Jamboard. So this is going to be slide number 5. Okay, so in slide number 5 you should see the way how it should work. And now if I run it, I will also later drop the code itself. So if I run it, it seems it's better. At least I hope. Okay, it's not, I guess, better. Or is it? So it should actually delete previous lines. So prints that one clear, right? So it's still filling me the lines, it seems like. Let me check, edit, emulate, terminal output console. That is what I need, right? System call clear. Let me check if I messed something up. Clear, clear, clear. CLS. System call clear. It should be fine. Clear. Maybe it doesn't like that I use this at the end. Maybe I should start with it. So let's see if I start with these two lines first clear, then write the scene. So let's see. Yeah, now it works better. So First of all, we need to clear console, then we can start writing it. Otherwise, oh no, it's still not working for me. Not sure exactly what's happening with this one. Should not behave like that. Just a second. Clear. Let me try CLS command. Okay, CLS command not found. Clear. So CLS is for Windows. And what else? So these guys, then there's some kind of strange space here. Probably I left it there somehow. Let me try to delete something. Let's see. So let's see now. Okay. now it had it's really messed up this part. So okay, we'll try to just make it a little bit smaller and then bigger. Run it again. Okay, now it looks better. Definitely looks better. But not sure still exactly about does the console clear works. Seems like it's working. It's just that I cannot scroll this. If I start scrolling the console below, then it starts not working, at least for me. But it works. Every second it updates the field. So on that field, we're gonna add some of these space invaders and things like that. So just a second. So we had the position of the rocket. So you can stop the program up there with pressing the red square so that's the stopping. So now, if you want to add the position of the rocket every second, it should move in some direction. So what we could do is so position 0, we can add every second we can add one cell plus 1. So this is going to be X position, and yeah, this is going to be X, and the Y position as well. So the Y position, so it could move in diagonal, right? So like that, and so then we can place the rocket in the scene. So the first comes the rows, except in this case it's all of that is a string already. Okay. So I messed a little bit up here, but no worries, I can fix it. So here the scene, I wanted to make it simpler, but actually made it more difficult, unfortunately. So let's remove those new lines here. But at least you know how to do this in other ways as well. So, and instead, let's add that the scene is made of lists. So it's actually a list basically. So the list, and then comma here, each of these are strings. Basically, it's actually exactly the same thing as we wrote with those students, but instead of students, now we have the emojis. So the emojis are just black boxes. By the way, I forgot to mention very important thing. So in Python, you have the scopes. So these tabs. So Python is very picky about tabs. You cannot not use tabs. You always like all of the functions. Everything is defined inside the tabs. So let me quickly show you that part, and promise this rocket part will be the last thing today. A little bit too long already, but still. So the purpose is to try to show you how to learn all sorts of concepts regarding programming using small games, and then using something more interesting. So just quickly share the Jamboard again. So in Jamboard here you can see the thing that I showed you before, to emulate that all of these emojis are refreshed inside the console and not written every time anew. You should then press up here and then use emulate terminal in output console. So this tool that we're using is PyCharm, if anybody joining later. And here, let me quickly show you regarding the scopes. So it's called scopes in Python and also in other languages. So it defines the regions in the code that have separated variables, and also so some variables that are not used in other parts. So here, let me check. Yeah. So here there is the tab. So you see that there is a gap here. So all of this is a separate scope. So the main loop here, this kind of keyword that is making this part of code repeating many times. So this part of code is repeating many times, right? And this tab is defining the part of the code that have different scope of variables. So it's called scope. It means that if we define here the command clear variable that's different, again reminding you for Windows is different. So this one is not accessible actually from this scope here. So in Python there are some exceptions, but in general, like if I would try to access that variable outside this part of the block of the code, it will not be accessible. But this variable is accessible because this is kind of in lower part of the scope here. So the tabs are super important. Also, when you define like the variables in multiple lines, like I'm using here, it again, the tabs are super important. And the next time, and times after that, we will look at functions that we make ourselves. It will be also very important regarding the tabs. So remember, Python likes tabs. So tabs, very important. If you mess up tabs, then there will get an errors and all sorts of weird things. And in the bottom part here, remember there's a sleep function. So this makes our rocket flying slower. And up here we have the console clearing part. And the middle part is actually where the action happens. So let me quickly jump back to the code. So let me share the emoji for the rocket as well. As I say, these games that we're going to make will going to be based on small emojis. So you can use your own emoji what you want, but the rocket emoji will be the one that's going to move up to that screen. So we have this scene here, the scene variable, right? The scene variable. In the scene variable, so we want to use that position of the rocket. So the position of the rocket is the complex type. As we discussed a lot about complex types, they are very different than basic types. And the 0 index means the x position, and y index means and the 1 index means the second, the y position. So, and to access the scene and change that cell to the rocket, so the rocket basically is now flying in diagonal down. So flying down in the diagonal direction, right? And so first of all, this is a list. So to access the list, we need to first select the row. So the row is in Y position, right? So we use here, like syntax could be like that, but this syntax is not really readable. There's a lot of like these curly brackets. So I suggest that we quickly use some temporary variables. Remember that again, now we're copying the value, not the pointer. So this, even though this is also a complex type, but when we access the single element in the complex type that is not complex, then we are copying the value, not copying the pointer or the reference or the actual like that complex type reference. So there's X and Y here. And now we can select the Y, so because the rows are the first here. And then we want to select the X, and then we want to add the rocket ship here. Where is my rocket ship? Where did you go? Oh no. Just a second. Where is the emoji rocket ship? Yes. So now okay, cool. So that's it. And the last thing is that printing out this thing is not going to make the way how I want it to look like, and to make it as a like small screen of your like small game, we need to make each of those lines as a separate line, and Python do not understand lines if we don't define them as this symbol. So this is a string symbol for new lines. And then there is also, again, not very intuitive function called here join that is called on top of that new line separator. Like this, there's actually no space here. Remember, there's no space here. It's like just everything together. And maybe also this is not clear. Let me write it here. So string scene. So this is like already joined all of those strings that are in this list. And if I write it down, it should work. So I will drop this code also in the Jamboard just in a second. Oh no, I made a mistake. String object does not support assignment. Just a second. So this selects the list. Okay. So I was hoping that I could just flip it like that. Unfortunately not. Just no worries, we can fix this. Okay, so maybe it's good time to show debugging. So if you press on these parts in the code on the left part, you can, in PyCharm, you can get these balls, red balls, that will make the code stop at that line. So, and then on top of the console, you have here the small bug, this green small bug, and if you press it, you get the debugging mode, and it will stop in this part. So if it stops here, now I nicely see all of the variables that I have here, and I can even change them and modify them, and we can look what exactly happening here. So if I select scene, this string part, and then if I select this part, it gets me actually nothing, because the emojis are unfortunately 2-byte variables, I guess. So to make it work, let's see, x+1, does it work like that? Nope. Yeah, so I messed it up again. So it means that we need another, I wanted to make everything much more simpler, but unfortunately it became much more difficult. So just a second. Let me think how to fix it correctly. Okay, I guess you will need to write this later a little bit more carefully, but the one way how to fix would be to have list and list here. So that was actually originally what I did, but now, unfortunately, wanted to make it more simpler, but now it's more difficult. So if I have each of those strings as a separate part, then I can change them very easily. So in 1, 2, 3. So let's keep 9 elements here. Yep, so I have 9 elements. So I have this one, this one, this one. So this is that field. Now it should work. By the way, there's if the rocket ship flies till the very end here, it will crash the program, but that's okay. You can try to fix it later. So again, just reminding, I will drop this in the Jamboard and also the link to the Jamboard also in the description. So the aim is that the spaceship would fly in one direction. So that's one part. The problem here, so this part of the code now gonna work fine, but there's gonna be another problem. So this part of code will not work fine. So we will need to convert all of these lines of lists. So there's a list inside another list. So that's an even more complex data type. You need to convert that one back in the way as it was just a minute ago when I started changing it. And to do that, it's not that difficult, but still requires a little bit of small line of code. So I don't want to make these as a one-liners to make it a little bit too complicated. So scene, let's call it scene lines here. So it could be just like an empty list here. And if you go through this scene, so here again, new keyword. So this is a new type of loop called for loop. So this is the find loop from one part to another part. So here, let's say this is going to be the line in. You can play around with this code later. So you just need to finish this session. So scene lines append, and we're gonna append each of these lines. So there's gonna be the string line, the same way as below here. So we're just combining all of those elements in single line, and then combining all of the lines together with new line. Here actually we're not using new line, we're using nothing basically, just empty symbol. And now hopefully it works. Okay, it's sleep 1 second. I guess it's, yeah, second. List index out of index. What is that? Just a second. Did it draw something? Okay, it's not drawing anything right now. String scene append. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake here. Here should be a scene. No worries, I understand that. So now it works. I run it again. So the spaceship is flying towards downwards direction here, and then it crashes the program. But in general, it works. So I will copy this part of the code. I really apologize that this is a little bit hectic because I wanted to make it simpler while I was explaining things, and it became a little bit more complex. So as you see, it's like only 35 lines, including all of the empty lines. So really simple code that you can start playing around. And next week, at this same time, we're gonna make a new file and explore more concepts regarding the Python and try to make this in a working Space Invaders game based on emojis. So yeah, yeah. I hope you enjoyed the small session. So this is primarily intended for my students that are just starting to code and have some potential, but also all other people are welcome to join. I will share the notes and also the link for the next week. So I hope it was fun and want to see you next week.